And we're live.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock on Friday, February 27. I'm Gary Washer, and welcome to Main Street Live. Today, we're going to have some news items that we want to talk about and go over some things that may affect you or may be something that you can get involved in the local community. First of all, Smyrna Laverne Food Bank is raising funds. And basically, they could always use canned goods, but other than that, they can also use baby products, baby cereal, formula, diapers, wipes, feminine hygiene, adult sanitary products, diabetic-friendly items, dairy and meat. And one of the things they pointed out as far as with cash is that they made a point is that they spend over $25,000 a year on dairy products. So this is a great opportunity if you want to donate something to the local food banks in Smyrna Laverne, especially because they feed a lot of people. And one of the things that they were pointing out, too, they highlighted a couple who had gone to them, and the husband had an injury at work. He actually lost a limb and wasn't able to work. They went to a lot of different places. So, even when dealing with some of the bureaucracies and other things that are going on, you can go straight to the food bank and go ahead and get what you need now. So that can be a great opportunity to get to that. And also, just as a side note, I happen to know also that Highland Heights Church of Christ in Smyrna, they have a food pantry and a clothing room that they have open every Tuesday at 10 p.m. to noon. And that also could be a place to send people who are in need of either food or clothing or other basic needs. Now, Ken, let me ask you this. Did you hear anything about Smyrna Riverdale and what happened with basketball teams?
I have not. Real quickly, though, on the food bank, I was on the board of the Murfreesboro Food Bank. And
Okay.
we had the occasion to visit Smyrna and talk to the folks over there from time to time. And I was always impressed with how well run it was, and they got a really tight ship. So if you're giving money or time or food to that place, you're not wasting it. It's a very tight run ship. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, here's what happened at Smyrna Riverdale basketball game this week. This has been all over the news. In fact, if you were to look up or Google Smyrna News, it's like most of the page is about this particular thing. So what happened was the basketball teams, the girls' teams, were basically trying to both get in a lower bracket. So both teams were trying to blow the game. They're saying girls were purposely missing shots, trying to shoot at the other team's goal, and finally they called the game and said, "Look, both of you guys are out of the tournament. That's it." And I think both teams have been fined, and both coaches have been suspended from coaching for the rest of this season and for next season. So, been a big highlight here. As far as local news, and and one of the coaches, I don't remember which one, but he was basically very much regretting that decision and just the integrity, that the lack of integrity that he showed the girls that he was coaching.
Yeah, now that you had mentioned that, I had seen something on that, and I think it was a Facebook post of a news story. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, here we go. Why, I'll go on a little rant here. Okay, we spend way too much money on sports, especially for our kids. Way too much importance is placed on sports, and if you got to go to the lengths of throwing games on purpose and teaching our kids, here's how you get ahead in life. It's by cheating. It's by flexing around the rules and stuff. Then it's time to quit. It's time to pack your bags and go home because you're not doing your job. As a coach, you're not in it to win. You're in it to teach the kids responsible things. To be a what should I? Charles Barkley said he's not a role model. But if you're in a position of authority over children, you are a role model. And I just have to say, what we ought to do? We ought to just cut sports right out of all the school systems. Let that be an ancillary thing. that people do on the side. And if they want to support their sports, then they can give money to it and send their kids to it. But let's get that out of the schools, because obviously they're failing if they're doing stuff like this. Okay.
Right. And that may not include all school systems or all sports teams, but I mean, I think you're right, though. There definitely is an overemphasis, I think, on sports. I think about even on the college level, how Vanderbilt, their football team was getting better, and they were putting more money into the program. And there's that part of me that says, well, great, they're finally getting it, because the reason people wear Vanderbilt T-shirts is not because of their academics, it's because of their sports. But on the flip side, just like what you're talking about, going to Vanderbilt, why do you actually go to Vanderbilt? It's not because you go to there for sports, it's because it's a academic school, and it's a good school to go to. So yeah, I can see both sides of it, and that emphasis, that overemphasis on the importance of sports, when in the end, I mean, sports does not, as a whole, make our society or culture move forward as far as advancing technology, but there's a lot of money to be made in sports. There's no doubt about that, and a lot of
that's only because we have made it that way. I mean,
right.
Our schools right now are begging for money. Give us money so we can educate our kids. But we're spending $2 or $3 million to build a field to play sports on. What about technology? What about textbooks? What about quality teachers? What about good field trips? What about all this other stuff that they're actually going to school for? I mean, if you've got boatloads of money to throw away, sure, put it on the sports and stuff like that. Because when the kids get out of high school and they get out of college, and then they look at themselves, and maybe a half of 1% of them may be able to pursue their sports dreams and make it a career or something like that, then great. But the rest of them, it's a hobby. It's something you do on Sunday when you're bored. You flip on the tube and you watch and you support the machine. Okay. Not that they're against sports. Have fun with sports. Send all hate mail to hatesports@kenivy.com. I love sports. Awesome. I mean, you can learn a lot. Teamwork, all this great stuff that comes from that. But if that's the most important thing you're doing all day is playing sports, then either that's got to be your career, or you're focusing too much on it.
Indeed. Yeah, and career meaning could be like sports gambling for the mob, but it's not always you're the player or the business owner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I thought that was a correction on that email address. hatesports@johngessler.com.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, he's not here to defend himself. Oh, man. Something really cool going on in Murfreesboro, and I didn't know this was happening, but there's a Murfreesboro organization that works in human trafficking. And that's really big news right now, because just this week there was another massage. We did something on this in the past, but there was a massage parlor in Franklin that had gotten raided because of suspicions of prostitution. And also, G&K Massage in Murfreesboro was also raided on Wednesday, and they found that a lot of passports were there from China, and that most of the people actually working there couldn't even speak English. It's a very sad story, the whole idea of human trafficking. And keep in mind that, if you're a person watching this and you go to those places, human trafficking is where they kidnap people and, take them out of their normal life, take them away from their parents or family, people who are, typically women or even children in some cases, and forcing them to basically be prostitutes. And so I'm glad that there is a fight against that, and that we're taking the right moves against that, because to me, it's one of the ultimate dehumanizations of human beings, is doing human trafficking. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Ken, but Yeah, there's a lot of
Generally speaking, I would have to agree. Human trafficking
yeah.
is bad. I don't have much experience. I don't go to massage parlors or anything like that. But I think that bad people will fill a gap, and if there are people out there looking for this type of activity, somebody's going to provide it. And so I
That's
think
right.
one of the emphasis, not only on closing down the place, is also make sure you're looking at who's keeping these places going. Who's donating to the
Right.
cause, so to speak. So they need to, or what are they in prostitution? They call it Johns, right? So they need to
Yeah.
bust the guys going in, or have a camera set up watching people going in. And of course, you got the privacy stuff, the Big Brother, why are you watching
Yeah.
me? It's not illegal, blah blah blah. But yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Kudos
there
to the
was.
people that bust those places.
Oh yeah. Well, I know the one in Franklin. The neighbors, or there's like a set of apartments or something nearby, and what people were noticing is that the clientele who were going in and out of this particular place were looking suspicious. They would be in there for very long hours, and when they would come out, I mean, they're looking everywhere. It's like they look like they were trying to not be seen. Uh, so that was kind of the first indicator that something doesn't seem to be right about this place.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and also in that along that same thread is that there was a lady who was busted. She was from Arkansas, but you were talking about the whole idea of Johns, and they were going through her phone and found a list of Johns. So there's probably some people today who are probably sweating right now. Because oh great, are they going to get my name? Are they going to be giving me a call? So.
Right.
So once again, I've said it once and I'll say it again. People who get in that business, there's no happy ending.
Oh.
Here's some other interesting news: is that $28,000 went missing from a Murfreesboro homeowners association. And this particular homeowners association is the Villages of Hazelwood, and it's located on North Thompson Lane. And they suspect that a board member for this particular HOA who had access to the account, right now they're looking into that as a possible person who withdrew the funds. Somebody had access to the account. And, man, that's, not good for them if that's the case. But homeowners associations, that's something that in my own home or neighborhood, we had something last year where I get a mail or a letter in the mail saying, make sure you pay your dues to such and such, and this person at this particular person is the person in charge of this HOA. But you walk up to their door to talk about, anything going on, and there's a sign on the door that says, "I did not send this letter out. Don't send your money there." So this seems to be an issue right now in Murfreesboro, is that with homeowners associations having issues of people doing fraudulent things. So yeah, always be aware of your homeowner association. If you want to know what's going on, be involved, and at least get to know the people that are part of your homeowners association.
Yeah, I've not been a big fan of HOAs. And it's not because they don't. To me, it reminds me kind of like a union or something. But not that I hate unions. I just think
okay.
sometimes they serve a purpose, and sometimes they're just more fluff. And I'd just soon live out in the woods or something like that, where nobody can tell me I can't park my truck in the driveway or something like that.
Well, exactly. Well, what's funny about our
America.
HOA, you would actually love our neighborhood, because I don't think we've had an HOA meeting in like 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's our HOA has not really been active anyway. So when we get this letter, it's like, oh, we're finally about to do something again, which is why a lot of people went to this person's house, to kind of get news. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute, we're not doing anything. So I
That
kind of
sounds
like
like
our
the
neighborhood
government.
in that regard. Do what?
Send me your money. We're not going to do anything.
I thought about being that guy who kind of starts our HOA up and gets it involved again. But I'm afraid what would happen is that they would vote me as being the president of the HOA, because I'd be that guy that says, look, I agree with you. I don't think other people really have a right to say, oh, you can or can't do this with the property. Now, I understand why they do that, for the value of the homes and all that. I get it. But I was born and raised out in the country, okay, where people didn't tell you what to do. So I'm used to that kind of thinking, that way of living. And so, yeah, they probably say, oh, yeah, we want to vote you then because you don't want to tell us what to do. And then I'd be stuck leading this thing.
Right.
Just some interesting news as a quick note is that a police sergeant here in Murfreesboro filled up a woman's car who needed gas. And I know that's not big news, but I know with all the recent, or not too recent, but recent things about, a lot of things about police officers and police brutality, is that police are doing good things. And that just because you hear a few things on the news about police brutality doesn't mean that that's how all police officers are. So we want to be careful of overgeneralizing. If you're not familiar with what that term overgeneralizing is, it's where you take one instance and apply it to every instance. So that would be like saying my spouse always makes me late, but we're late, maybe 5 out of 10 times. So we're not always late because of my spouse.
Or
And I'm
saying
not saying
all
that's
sports are bad, or we should
That's
take all
right.
the sports out of school. Something like that would be an overgeneralization.
Exactly, and we certainly wouldn't do that on our show,
No, never.
about overgeneralization. Yeah. But most police officers are going to be good people who want to do the right thing and want to do the right job. It's just like with any industry or with any, it's just like with big corporations, people, because a small percent of corporations like Enron and other people have done some really bad things, or like when Jordan Belfort had the Strattonites, you have those small percent of people who do some unethical things, but what people want to do is say, well, all corporations are bad,
Right,
but that's not really the case. We want to be careful of overgeneralization.
There's a rumor that's
person.
been floating around lately, Gary, that police are actually people too. Go figure.
Yeah, who would have thought that?
So that means that they have feelings, and most of them are probably generally good. And you do have the occasional bad apple, as you would in any group. But you got to consider when you're being pulled over or something, and maybe he's not smiling at you or something like that. Consider his day.
Yeah.
Most police officers' day, if they're doing their job, is spent amongst the element that you really don't want to partake in as a citizen. And so, they got to deal with that. They got to put up with that. And so if they have, if they're not smiling at you or as friendly as they might have been, then just consider, hey, this guy is, messing around with bad dudes all day long for you. So
yeah,
be nice. Start off nice. Generally speaking, if you're nice to somebody, they'll be nice back. If you're there's a number of words you could put in there. If you're not so nice and feeling like it's a big disruption of your day, then maybe you're going to get some attitude. So be nice.
Well, it's like the old saying: when you catch more flies with honey.
Right.
By being sweet to people, you're going to make a bigger impact. And plus, these guys too don't know if you're that guy. They don't know you. They don't know if you're that guy or gal who has a gun that's going to pull it out on them. So they have to treat everybody as that person who could potentially keep them from going home and seeing their wife and kids at the end of the day.
They don't necessarily have to treat them that way. They just need to be aware that the possibility exists. And so
that's right.
Protect themselves. Sure. There's a funny video. It's got some language in it, but I think it's Chris Rock who did it, and the title of it I think is called "How Not to Get Your Donkey Beat by the Cops" or something to that effect. And he goes over some common sense things you can do when you're dealing with the police to not cause a ruckus. and I encourage everybody to watch that because it's funny and informative.
Is that on YouTube?
It is on YouTube, yeah. If I think about it, I'll put
Cool.
a link on the page.
So if I literally put in how to not get your donkey beat by a police officer,
Well, you'll have to
like you use the word donkey.
substitute donkey, yeah. I'm being nice here.
Okay. Oh my. Here's some other interesting news that North Murfreesboro could get a high-end grocery store. Now they haven't said yet what high-end grocery store it could be. You know, it may be a Whole Foods. You know, they haven't said yet, but it could be a Trader Joe's. You know, we don't know, but that's an option. So be on the lookout for that, folks.
And we need something like that. I mean, you know, we got 50 Walmarts, right?
That's right. We
Not
got.
that there's
I think.
anything wrong with Walmarts. I shop there from time to time, but hey, I have actually been doing a lot of grocery shopping lately at CSAs and places like Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's good food, and the prices, you know, if you're smart, you can buy organic stuff at or near regular discount food prices.
And you don't have to get it all there either. You can find the local vegetable stands too, where they're getting from the local growers,
Hmm.
and sometimes get out really cheap through those people too. So if you're willing to kind of go at multiple places too, and just like what you just said, you know, people tell me, well, it's expensive to eat organic, you know, and I've found that that's not necessarily the case. You know, when we're buying health foods and things like that, it's not any more expensive than not doing that. So, and it all, and you know, just how it comes out in different meals and things, it actually works out about the same.
Yeah.
Um, Here's something that I'm really excited about, but is not necessarily a guarantee. I've noticed near my house they've added another line, and I've heard it rumored. The reason that we haven't had a train from Murfreesboro to Nashville, kind of like they have the one from Lebanon to Nashville, is because Nissan, you know, they have so much there with Nissan, filling up cars, taking them to Chattanooga and different places, is that it's just too congested. But Senator Kitron has been talking to CSX as the possibility of opening up Murfreesboro to Nashville passenger rail. And I think right now it looks like they're doing a study, seeing, you know, if it's possible, if it's going to be feasible, economic, then they might have to add some more line to possibly do it. You know, looking at here, they're also looking at the possibility of an I-24 monorail study, which it looks like it's been approved to lawmakers. So it might be in the form of a monorail instead of a traditional line. But I'm excited about that because I used to live in Lebanon just for a short period of time, and I was driving to Nashville. And I remember when they opened up that train from Lebanon to Nashville, and that week, it's like it opened up the flow of traffic. And so I noticed personally that it made a huge difference. And think about the difference of, you know, we could add more highway, and of course all the cost and how long that takes to do that. But I think it's getting about time, especially with the growth that's happening in Murfreesboro, the growth that's happening in Nashville, that it's getting to that time where we need to start thinking mass transit and doing more like the bigger cities, Charlotte, some of these other places that are adding more train type and mass transit type travel.
I agree. I mean, I commuted to Nashville for many years, and I mean, it wasn't that far, but all the traffic, it was, you know, I mean, you had certain windows of opportunity that if you left at a certain time, and usually it was really early or really late, that you could get in and not hit all that traffic. But yeah, I've been a passenger on trains mostly as a tourist, not as a commuter. But have lived lots of places that had lots of commuter trains like that, and it's great because you can sit there, you can read the paper, or you can do some work and get a lot of stuff done and not have to worry about, you know, hitting anybody or getting hit in that perspective.
Yeah. I also like it too as a networking opportunity because, even though I'm an introvert, I still like to connect to people and get to know people, and that there can be great opportunities for that as well. I used to live in Malaysia for about 6 months, and they had three different train systems going through that city, and it sure was convenient, especially when you're living in a country that was a British colony, and they drive on the wrong side of the road, to be able to get to anywhere you need to in the city through a train. I enjoyed that, and it was relatively cheap. So, yeah, I think it's about time that we start to be thinking in the future for Nashville, and come up with more efficient and better ways to travel.
I agree.
Now, Ken, have you, I guess, heard about the FCC approves net neutrality?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
What are your particular thoughts about that? And because I know there's debates on both sides about whether this is good or bad.
Yeah, here's the thing. Every time the government gets in something, they typically screw it up. And so, yeah, I would lean toward staying away from that, even though they purportedly have good reasons for doing so. But I think the free market will settle all this stuff. I mean, if you're getting your internet, and I think the big complaint is internet throttling and stuff. At least that's what they're selling right now. If you're watching, let's say you got an internet connection and you're watching Netflix and you're gigs and gigs and gigs of TV shows and stuff. After a certain while, Comcast, who also sells cable and stuff like that, would say, hey, you know what? After the first 50 gigs, we're going to slow you down here, okay? So you're not sucking up all the bandwidth. And so that's basically, I think, what the big crux of the argument is. And they want everyone to not be able to have that throttling ability. And, who wants to be throttled, really? I mean, we want all the internet we can get, right? But I think, if it gets to the point where it's bothering you, then the people who are paying for internet are going to go to someone, if they have that choice, that's not going to throttle them. Or they're just going to, beat them down on Twitter or whatever until they, give up. So I'd just assume the government stay out of it. The internet's a good free place and it's working. It's the one thing that 10 years ago kept us going. Grew our economy, kept us going. And if you start screwing around with it, we're going to have trouble. That's my thought.
Well, I think about that with if they do any like regulations or any more regulations, we could also say, now it may take a while, but there's a lot of deregulation of the energy. There was the deregulation already of the local long distance. So we also find that some of these industries that have been regulated at some point become deregulated too. So there's also that option in the future if we find that this becomes a problem. And the whole idea of throttling as well, if you're watching that much TV or Netflix, maybe you shouldn't be. Maybe you should be throttled and should be out there playing sports with your local high school. But my thing too.
Just for that, I'm going off grid, man.
Well, one of the things I guess that concerns me. One of the things that concerns me is that they have that 317-page document that they haven't really let anybody in on yet, and that always concerns me because when there's all these other things that in these documents
it's the legislation versus regulation.
Right.
Regulation, the administration's got everybody under their thumb. With legislation, everybody has to vote on it and therefore be accountable.
Right. And of course, Ron Paul had a article or said in the news already that he had an issue with it because it was done by the FCC and not by Congress. And if you look at Article 1 of the Constitution of the United States, Section 1, it says all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in the Congress of the United States, which shall consist of the Senate and the House of Representatives. So there is that debate of, is the FCC overstepping its bounds? is this something that should be done by Congress, voted on by Congress? And I think that's something that needs to be brought up as well. Because we do see, it seems like more and more branches or more bureaucracies wanting to overstep their bounds when it was set up from the beginning that Congress, the House of the Representatives, and the Senate were to be the ones who are going to do legislation, or all legislation, as it says in Section 1, Article 1, or Article 1, Section 1.
Yeah, there's been a lot of overstepping. I'm not sure exactly what the root cause of that is, but when you've got government agencies like the Department of Agriculture that has their own SWAT team, I mean, come on. Wouldn't that money be better spent, doing what you're supposed to be doing rather than trying to regulate? That's what we have law enforcement for.
Exactly. I agree 100%. So, whether net neutrality is what it's really going to do, I guess it's yet to be seen as far as how that's going to affect us, in the future. And, Lord willing, or hopefully, we'll see how our rights, our freedoms, and how the Constitution holds up, and our ability to reverse it or do any necessary changes we need to it in the future. So, that being said, that's all the news items I have for today, unless you got anything you'd like to add to it, Ken.
Wow, news items. I guess if you wanted to talk politics, a lot of people are gearing up for the presidential elections. And it's funny to watch how that stuff sorts out. And interesting and funny sometimes. Speaking of funny, in a good way, the entertainer Madonna, have we seen the clips where she had fallen off the stage? And I was confused, like I think a lot of other people were confused too. I was watching her step up on the stage, and she's got this massive cape, right? And you see her fiddling, but you don't really think about anything. And then all of a sudden, the cape, billows up, and she's jerked off the stage. And I think, wow, man, wherever she is, they got a lot of wind there, right? The cape just sucked her right off the stage as she fell. As it turns out, there's those dudes, the dudes with the little horns on their head. You'd think if you were singing and a bunch of guys with horns on their head, you might want to watch yourself anyway, right? But apparently some of those guys were holding her cape, and apparently at one point were supposed to, like, tug it loose for dramatic effect. Those guys, they did a great job. I mean, they tugged it right off, and she fell down. But as a keeper, she kept going. I thought it was a little, I mean, I'm sorry she fell down the stairs and stuff, but I think, wow, they've got something now. It's called Velcro. Look for the Velcro. We've got to watch out for these uniform, what do they call them? What did Janet Jackson call it? It's some kind of mishap. What was that? I can't think of the name now. Malfunction, right? Some kind of clothing malfunction or something.
Yeah. Wardrobe malfunction.
Wardrobe malfunction. We need to look at, let's divert some money from these sports activities and really delve deep into wardrobe malfunction, because somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get hurt.
Well, that's what she gets for having an Illuminati Satan worshiping seance right there on live television anyway.
I wasn't going to go there, man.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't go there.
She had some good tunes in the 80s. It was very catchy tunes. I liked it.
Oh, Madonna?
But yeah, all these half-dressed, I mean, what are they supposed to be anyway?
What? The devils?
These is that what they were? The devils? They were devils? I thought maybe they were cows or something. I don't know. I couldn't tell.
Well, they were red, so I would think they're demons or some kind of demonic type.
Oh, maybe that's it.
Creature. Yeah. I know the whole big conspiracy theory of the Illuminati and their role and involvement in the music industry and the movie industry. If they're trying to be secretive, they're not doing a very good job of it.
Yeah, I haven't heard that, but I wouldn't.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, you should look it up, man. They have all kinds of theories, and the people who are really big into the Illuminati conspiracies. I mean, they show all kinds of music videos and things that have that Eye of Horus and
Oh
all
yeah,
those
yeah.
different, yeah, the symbolism and the Masonic symbols all through it. Yeah, if they're trying to hide, they're not doing or be secretive. They're not doing a good job. I mean,
Yeah,
if
I
that's
guess
the
there's
case.
two trains of thought. One would be they're just doing it for effect. Well, of course, and then the other is maybe it's real, man. Maybe they think it's time that they can start
Yeah.
coming out and showing their true colors. I don't know. I haven't really looked too much into the Illuminati. I watched Angelina Jolie. Uh, she's the it's not the Lost Ark stuff, but what did she do? Laura Croft, Tomb Raider. That's it, Tomb Raider. And they had some Illuminati stuff in there. They didn't get too far though.
Yeah.
I'm looking down at the control panel of the show, and it shows the frames in progress, and one of the frames it's stuck on right now is me going like that. That's funny. Yeah, so when you're watching this, take a snapshot, and then you can post it all over the internet. That's a good one.
What people do is say that we're part of the Illuminati. They're using devil symbols now, and
Yeah, well, maybe so. And of course, they're converting the text or the speech into text. So now that Illuminati will show up, it'll be flagged by the NSA and stuff like that. Maybe they'll induct us. Who knows? Gary, I noticed one thing that's it's glaringly missing from your reports today, and I'm wondering maybe if there's a conspiracy theory behind that. It's the weather. I haven't heard you talk about the weather there.
oh, well, it's 7 degrees and sunny inside.
Now, I've been watching the Facebook feeds because I'm up here in Wisconsin right now, and I've got a lot of friends in Murfreesboro and Middle Tennessee, and I'm getting all these pictures of the ice storms and the driveways that are skating rinks and all kinds of fun stuff like that. And I'm thinking, man, it's about time I get back down to Murfreesboro, because the last time I came in February, it was like 80 degrees. And now there's these ice storms. I mean, outside here, it's still, snow. Haven't seen grass in a long time. It's frozen tundra. I don't know why anybody would live here. It's crazy.
Well, obviously, because of global warming,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
it's causing a problem down here, and it's no, wait a minute, no, it's not. It's freezing cold.
Maybe all the global
we had
went to the other side or something like that.
Yeah, it must be somewhere else. So right now,
Have
no,
you
it
seen
was
that?
it was yeah.
Have you seen that meme of Al Gore and he's all frozen and stuff like that? And it says something about
No.
global warming. Oh yeah, he was like the Iceman or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a fraud right there.
Well, that's why they had to go
No,
do climate change. Climate change is the thing now, because that way
yeah,
we're
yeah,
covered
yeah.
no matter which way it goes. You know what the biggest problem is? Climate change. That's it.
That's one of the things you see with the liberals, or actually they're the progressives, or whatever they're called now, is that they continually change their name, because if you noticed over the years, as soon as people catch on to their marketing style or whatever it is, and it's like, they seem to be full of crap on this. It's like, we're now this, or it's now this, or it's now this. It's instead of saying, hey, we were wrong, and that's not what's going on, they just remarket it because they stand to have a financial gain because of it. I mean, think about, I really need to look it up, but, the idea of these carbon credits, I mean, that's a pretty good scheme to get companies to pay you to get nothing in return.
Right. But you got to think about these guys who purport the global warming, that it's true and everything. They really should capitalize on this. They're wrong. They're dead wrong. Okay, it is climate change now, but what they should do, instead of saying, oh yeah, that was so long ago and science has changed, or whatever excuse they're using now, they should have said, hey, we were so effective at pushing back on global warming Now we've got to deal with global cooling. Go figure.
Well, back in the 1970s, that's what they were pushing is, oh, we're going to go through a global cooling. And, what happened to that? Nobody hears anything about it at all now. It completely changed. So, I mean, this is nothing new.
Right.
Uh, there's always some latest theory uh, to con people into giving me, your leader, more power and do more of your thinking for you. So I mean, it's just another story of the emperor's new clothes. He's really just naked. It's nothing new at all. Um, when I think about that, I had my wife's uncle went to Alaska over the spring or summer last year, and they were seeing all the glaciers, and they were talking to some of the local scientists and people at the park, and they asked them about it, about the whole idea, what they thought about climate change and all that, or global warming, and they said when it first kind of started coming out, they bought into it, but now just watching the growth and how the glaciers are, they say we don't buy into it anymore. It's just that's not the case. So that through their observation, it doesn't seem to be correct either. And there was a great documentary that at the time was on YouTube. It may still be, but it was talked about the global warming myth. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was real scientists who talked about what was going on, and it actually had nothing to do with man-made global warming. It was all to do with sunspots and the sun cycle.
Right. Right. And there's something to be said. I mean, I don't want to have people think that I would, and this is how they'll portray you, as someone who says, let's dump more chemicals into the air and the water and all the stuff. Let's do all this stuff. I mean, it's obvious when you have industry run amok and smog and stuff like that. That's something that's real. That's something that's happened. That causes health effects. People. Los Angeles. Now it's China. I think there was a time in Chattanooga. Was it the 50s or 60s? I can't remember. That there was a lot of smog downtown, and it was terrible because they were just emitting all this stuff. Well, I mean, yeah, of course you want to, stop putting stuff in the air that doesn't belong there or didn't start there. But you can't blame temperature cycles. I mean, unless you can prove it. You can't blame all this stuff on one activity. I mean, when you look in the air and you see the smog coming straight out of a pipe, and the whole city is covered in smog and smoke and nasty stuff, and you're taking chemical samples and you're tracing it to that source, then you can say, hey, you're causing this. Let's filter it, or let's figure out a different way to process this. But to say that we're, going to be 20 degrees warmer next year because of all this stuff, and you don't have anything to back it up, and then it doesn't happen, it makes everyone so much more wary of what you might say next time. What's the next big danger? And, well, why should we believe you? I mean, you made us spend billions of dollars on junk that doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, here's something to think about, I think, as well with this, is that let's assume they're right. Now, here's what happened back when the first explorers went to Antarctica, is that they actually found frozen in the ice palm trees. And it opened up the world to an idea that there was a time when the entire Earth actually had a moderate climate. There are several theories behind why that is. There's actually, or at least at one point, there were three main ones. One of them is that the oceans were warmer. Another one had to do with the Earth being completely straight up and down. There was no tilt. And I think another one had to do with like a greenhouse effect. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I mean, it goes to show, though, that at one point the entire Earth was a moderate climate. And so let's say global warming is right. We get to that point again where the ice caps melt. It doesn't matter. We've already been there as far as the world, So it's not going to be the end of the world.
No, I mean, unless
It's
you're underwater,
it,
then it would kind of put a damper on your Facebook experience, whatever.
well, that's true.
You
But
have to move to high ground.
But here's the deal: the entire Earth won't be covered with water again.
Oh yeah,
That's a guarantee.
I didn't mean to say that. No, we've got a
Yeah.
rainbow. The true purpose of the rainbow is to remind us of that. Um,
That's right.
it's been
That's right. You
hijacked
know,
now.
we
We'll
might
enjoy
lose
it.
the Everglades, but you know, it's just it's nothing but full of snakehead fish anyway that don't belong there now. So, I mean, what are we losing anyway, right?
We'll have to move the Keys up north a little bit.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we'll just replant them and to new locations. Oh man, crazy, crazy.
Yeah, news. Let me think if there's anything. Gosh.
Well, you were talking about politics. There was a good
Yeah. That's what I was
video
thinking.
on Yahoo yesterday where Katie Couric was interviewing Rand Paul, and we've said on a show past, John Gessler has his own idea of who will be president. I have no idea at this point, but or who'll be running for president as far as the Republican Party. But
Mhm.
I kind of do like Rand Paul, but just for the fact of in his answering of the questions. Now, I mean, it's always to be seen. Anytime a person can say something, we want to see it followed up by their actions. But I do like how he is pro-Constitution, and I like how in his answers that he gave, he was going back to what's constitutional, not just what I think is right or what I think is wrong, but what is constitutional, because the Constitution was put in place to protect us from dictators or monarchies or all the other abuses that can happen or maybe are happening. And so I'm all for somebody who is pro-Constitution. And also he had his own thoughts about whether Hillary Clinton would be viable or not. So if you have any questions about that, definitely look up that video with Katie Couric and Rand Paul and see what he has to say about her as well. And you'll definitely hear the idea of Benghazi because she was already hearing for months on end that we need help. There's something happening. We need help. There's something happening. We need help. Something's happening, and they were all ignored until it was too late. So do you want that person leading your country? Yeah.
I think it's a matter of, as far as Benghazi goes, it's convincing people that it matters. Because I think if enough people thought that it mattered, and I do, they would have done something. They would have raised a stink. They would have, but it's like they're Teflon, They called Reagan the Teflon president or whatever. But nothing sticks with these people. So I don't know what would happen. I think unless something spectacular happens, if she runs, she'll probably be the next president.
Yeah. Because people are stupid and they like gimmicks, like the first woman president, no matter what the consequences are going to be, and no matter if we'll vote on anybody, even if they're part of the Illuminati, like the Clintons. I'm just kidding. I don't really know that.
There's going to be black vans pulling up in front of your house tonight, right?
Oh, they probably already are. When you're a Caucasian Bible toter, they probably already listen to my phone.
Yeah, well, they did something on the what was that, the summit to do something to extreme violence or violent extremism. They had a weird name for this recent conference, and I think there were a lot of conservative type groups that were put on this list of people who you better look out for. So it may be that anybody who thinks other than the current administration could be looking for a visit, maybe, or at least be on a list.
Well, going back to Rand Paul, one of the things that he wants to do is they were talking about how the Patriot Act is up for renewal, or if they're going to renew it or not, and he's totally against it. And once again, I agree, because the unconstitutional aspects of it is that according to the Patriot Act, if they think you're a terrorist, which, I mean, what's the definition of that? I can make that whatever I want it to be, really. You can be detained indefinitely without trial, and that's unconstitutional. So he is all for getting rid of that and giving people their proper rights of, if you're going to be detained, you get a proper trial. So let's hope for that as well and pray for that we can get some of our freedoms back by getting rid of the Patriot Act. Well, now that we just had an eternity of silence for our audience.
I figured if I don't say anything, they can't tag me with this, right?
I wanted to have a proverb of the day. I've had a routine lately. I read that book, The Richest Man Who Ever Lived, which would have been Solomon. Even though we would consider today, Rockefeller the richest man who's ever lived, one person calculated, what we know that Solomon had would have been considered a trillionaire by today's standards. So Rockefeller didn't get quite there. But anyway, that book talked about reading a proverb a day on the day. It is, so today is the 27th, so you'd read Proverbs 27 and making a habit out of, so if you start on the 1st of March, you would read Proverb 1. On the 2nd, you'd read the 2nd proverb, or a set of Proverbs, and so on and so forth. Okay. But we're going to do Proverbs 27:22, which is crush your fool with mortar and pestle, along with crushed grain, yet his folly will not depart from him. In other words, we're going to have challenges in life, always. There's never going to be a point, if you're still living, there's never going to be a point when you won't have challenges. But a person who's a fool will keep having those same challenges, and he won't grow from them. He won't break out of his current mindset because he thinks he's right no matter what. And so don't be like the fool that when you're getting crushed by life and by the things that are happening, that you can't change from it. So that is the proverb of the day.
I like it.
With that being said, that's all I have.
Okay. So we call it a day?
Let's call it a day. Thank you for watching.
Yeah. Bye.